Good afternoon, Candance. How are you?
Well, thank you, Diana. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. Today, we are here with Candance Chow. She is one of the remarkable storytellers who will be sharing their aha moments and the paths they're on in what I call your beautiful third act. I wanted to start to introduce you a little bit, Candace, and I want to ask you a few interesting questions to probe a little bit so people can get to know you. You have been and continue through each step along the way in your life's journey been an amazing advocate for women in education and also in the workplace. Candace began her career in international affairs at the U.S. State Department, quickly seeing the barriers for women's advancement, which spurred her to work for several women's advocacy organizations in Washington, D.C. Then, after completing her MBA at Kellogg Graduate School of Management, she morphed again. Her career path pivoted over to work as a management consultant and a senior leader and product manager for several startup tech firms. She then started her own consulting firm in 2005 after the birth of her second daughter, and then entered public service directly as an elected school board member and then as a candidate for the Illinois State House of Representatives. Bold moves driven clearly by something calling her inside, and that's what we're going to discover a little bit today. But what I want to talk about quickly here, just to round this out, is that in 2019, Candance and four other women who had been really engaged in the community work decided to launch NextGroup, which supports women who are pivoting or changing careers. And they tend to be primarily in midlife and beyond. A lot of women that change their career trajectories to raise a family or make other decisions. So it's an especially important group for people that are in Third Act Quest's purview and audience. So I'm very excited to introduce Candance. And first of all, I'd love to learn a little bit more about NextGroup and how you serve women.
Great. I love talking about NextGroup. So that's good. Well, as you said, we started back in 2019 before the pandemic, really because there were several women in my orbit who had been doing amazing things in our community. And a few of them came to me and said, I'm thinking about going back to the paid workforce, but I don't know what to say. I don't have anything to say. And I was like, oh my God, you have so many things to say. We got to talk. And, after that happened several times, a few colleagues and I who had been serving in different roles decided there was a need for someone helping women who are pivoting or relaunching their careers. So we started NextGroup. There's basically two sides of the business. We have a talent network, a community of women helping other women. It's free to join. You just sign up on our website, which is nextgroupus.com. And we send out communications. We also then have programming, kind of events and that type of thing to help women it's a scary process to either make a big switch in your career or to go back to work, quote unquote, when you've been out of the paid workforce for a while. So, and in these spaces that we create, it's very important that we are focusing on ourselves and our professional journeys. I remember the first networking event that we did, I told everybody that they were forbidden from talking about their children, their spouses, their dogs, their parents, anybody, the organizations they support. They needed to talk only about themselves and what they were doing or what they wanted to do. And that sometimes is very challenging for women. So that's one side of the business. And then the other side is to actually find great opportunities for those women with employers. And there we're much like a traditional search firm. However, we target employers that are small to medium-sized businesses, and nonprofit organizations tend to be the types of organizations that many of the women we're working with want to be part of and feel they can have more of an impact than maybe a large company. and we match them. We find women who would be great to add to their teams in mid-level roles, in roles that require transferable skills, like the ability to multitask and juggle lots of things at the same time, which we're infamously good at. And then we advocate for women in these roles. So we tend to work with employers who are more enlightened around the need for diversity in their teams, and that diversity can take the shape of gender, age, experience, race, all types of diversity, and what that lends, the value it lends.
Wow. So gendered ageism is a significant issue for women. I think we all know a number of women who either can't re-enter at nearly the level they departed the workforce, or are finding themselves unemployed, potentially as a result of their age, and hard and difficult to find some organization to take them on after a certain age. So I love what you're doing, because you're both encouraging the women to re-enter, pivot, but you're also impacting the perception of employers to the value of these women, that are typically looked at, oh my gosh, they've been out for X number of years. So talk to me a little bit about what you see in terms of the shift from the employer's perception of a woman who perhaps has been out of the workforce for a few years.
Yeah, I would say one thing, and most often is right now, is that, in some ways the pandemic is our friend. As women who have been out of the formal workforce, everybody's had a break in their career for one reason or the other over the last 3 years. So the pandemic has certainly normalized that. It still can be a challenge if you're looking at 15, 20 years. But I will say many organizations that are innovative and growing have said to me at the highest levels is that, we aren't looking for this or that on the resume. We're looking for curiosity. We're looking for the ability to adapt and to change and to learn, lifelong learners. And of course, they're looking for, communication skills, empathy, the things that make strong team members, because they know your experience doing A, B, or C is only going to be good for a couple of years in this world, right?
Right.
So everybody has a tech gap now, right? Because the technology of last year is not the same as it is this year. So that's the way we have conversations with employers, and sometimes you can tell that they might have certain biases that exist. And what I work with our candidates and myself is to basically address those head on, in the communications as you're talking. And you need to get into conversation to be able to do that. But as opposed to waiting till they ask you the question of, how are your tech skills? Because you've been out of the workforce, you talk about that up front.
Yep.
I think that dispels a lot of the myths.
Fantastic. Well, I think there are so many fabulous initiatives underway trying to shift the mindset around employers to older women. But the way you're at it is such a practical, a lot of the DEI initiatives are wonderful, but this is real, it's action oriented. It's like a job that you can fill with a talented human. So it's a really wonderful thing that will go a long way. So I'm very excited to have met you and to learn about it. And as you grow this, it's going to be just such a remarkable it's going to be a remarkable journey to watch you on. So I would like to shift things to a little bit more personal and understand, with all of us in our lives, we make decisions based on some instinct or calling or a defining moment that puts us on the path. So what could be what you would call your aha moment that led you on the path to create NextGroup?
I think it actually, just this whole premise of supporting women in work actually goes back to me when I was maybe 20, 21 years old. And my mother at the time had been, she worked in a manufacturing job, raising me. And that was good work, right? But it wasn't a unionized shop. And at the time, she was having some mental health issues and some physical health issues because she was standing on the line, all the days of the week. And they wanted her to, she was on part-time disability, and they wanted her to go on permanent, basically to leave, but they were not going to put her on like a permanent disability. Effectively, what that ended up creating was, I remember distinctly sitting in a conference room with my mom and these other people, and I was her advocate. Like, I didn't know what to do of advocating. She wasn't in a position mentally or at that time to be self-advocating, and there was no one else there for her.
Wow.
And I think that, like, I don't know, NextGroup specific, it certainly had a shape in my early career when I was working women's issues, but then just figuring out how can I use the talents and the skills that I have to help other women who maybe haven't been, had that good fortune, that luck, whatever you want to call it. And so, NextGroup is a small way to do that as well, right? It's to help other women, and be alongside them as they're trying to tell their story and be heard.
Absolutely. Well, the thread then has followed you. You were on the school board, and then you ran for state representative, right? Is that what? So tell me about that. That takes a lot of courage and a lot of intention.
Yeah, I was scared to death for about 8 months. I was taking that mantra, do something every day that scares you, but it literally was scaring me every day. I had always had this thing inside me that I wanted to run for office, and I was always very practical, and I kept putting it off. Well, I don't know the right people, I don't live at the right place. I don't have the right networks. I have kids now. I got to take care of the kids. I have this. Like, it was going on and on and on and on. And I all of a sudden just said, you know what, like, there's never going to be a perfect time. And this is something I've wanted to do because I feel like I do have something to offer. And I've seen how public programming can help people. I mean, I was, raised by my mom on her own, and we were on some public services at a given time. And public education is what got me out of the trailer park and into other things. And so it just made sense. I didn't realize I was not politically savvy, though. I didn't realize that I was going in a race that there were 5 people running against me. They were all other women. And the primary opponent was being supported by Speaker Madigan, who had some big fame in Illinois at the time here. So it was a pretty tough race, but it was certainly worth it.
What an experience. Well, the intention of it is what matters, really, right? I mean, and also the fact that you made this decision and you did it, you stuck it out. So decisions are huge. I mean, decisions along our lives, and sometimes it just, we're compelled, right? But tell me sort of what's your sort of inner GPS, or, how you've calibrated your direction over the years? What is your go-to on that?
Yeah, well, I've tried everything. As a recovering consultant, I've got all kinds of models and paradigms, and not just the 2x2, I've got the 10x10 that I would look at my husband and I both as we were making decisions, weighing all these facts and figures and that kind of stuff. And I still believe looking at things analytically is important. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to step away from all that, like, absorb it, step away from it. And I found now I just have to be very quiet and kind of look inside of myself. And hopefully I'm, in tune with myself or my God, or, whatever I believe is the source of my calling. And it will reveal itself. And at the end of the day, realizing that ultimately, if you don't make the right choice, lots of other things, there is no single right choice, right? We just go down a slightly different path. But that's hard. It's hard. I used to, agonize and become debilitated over making pretty sizable decisions. But I feel like the older I get, I guess I feel like I don't have as much chance to keep making them. So maybe I should just hurry it up already.
Well, you also learned, as you just said, that, staying neutral, hugging the tree and not making a decision, or staying in something that's not serving you or serving others in any positive way, is certainly not of benefit. And even if you hit a dead end on the decision you make, you can always change your mind and go the other way, right? Yeah. So what would you, if you were to, you will be speaking to our audience at the end of October and sharing your personal story. And we'll hear a little bit more about you and your decisions, as well as get a chance to have people engage and chat with you. But if you were to say now that, words of wisdom to women of any age, young or old, what would you say in terms of how to think of your life?
I think it's just about living your mistakes and living your successes and learning from each one of them, and do not be afraid. I was very fearful that I would do something wrong or mess up, and, very hugely like that, especially because I felt like the whole world was on my shoulders from my mom giving so much to make my life better. So I didn't want to mess up along the way. But, at the end of the day, everything you do, you will learn from. Yeah. And you learn more from the quote unquote mistakes than the others. So just do it. And if you feel like, someone's calling you, you have a calling, you got to pick up the phone, right? Like that's
right. Okay. That was where I was leading. So for anyone that's listened to other storyteller interviews, I asked that question, like your life's philosophy in a bumper sticker. So say it again for us, because I loved it.
Well, mine was, if you feel like you are being called, but you still have to pick up the phone. So it's not, and I think you still have to do that, even though our phone, like they haven't started infiltrating our brain without a phone. Not yet.
Well, they're trying their best, right? Yeah. And calling comes in so many forms, and so many people, have blocks to hearing them because they're attending too much to what they think they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
They're not listening to what, they're uniquely called to do. So you got your calling early, and you've intentionally focused that in so many different beautiful ways. I'm just so excited that you're going to be a part of this event. It will be so inspiring for everyone. And I also think too, for any of the people that listen in on the event, it will be especially wonderful that they'll know that if they're looking for a new role, especially if they're reemerging from a time of not working, that you're just a great resource for them. So I'm excited about that.
Well, so am I, Diana. And it's been great meeting you, because it feels like there are kindred spirits, like us around all over, and having this way to come together is awesome.
Well, thank you for saying that. And also, once you meet and hear all the other stories, you will definitely feel like you're surrounded by some you probably already know, because, we find each other. Thank you, LinkedIn. We find each other because we care, and everybody's coming at the same kind of mission to change the way people think about aging, or change the opportunities and possibilities for women, especially women after a certain age. What a pleasure. And I'll see you very soon. Thanks for today.
Thank you.